His Zephyrian fleet had arrived at Earth with the same arrogance they brought to every conquest. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue marble rotate beneath them, cataloging its resources and population with cold efficiency. Another primitive world to harvest, another species to chain. "Scan complete, Admiral," reported his tactical officer. "Approximately 8 billion bipedal organisms, technology level, primitive fusion and chemical propulsion. No. Energy shields detected, military capability negligible." Kethvar's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. The hegemony's expansion continued unabated. In 3 centuries, they had subjugated 47 worlds, each one adding to their vast empire of enslaved species. The pattern never varied. Arrive, overwhelm, harvest the able-bodied, leave the rest to maintain basic infrastructure. "Begin standard pacification protocols," he ordered. The humans, as they called themselves, responded exactly as predicted. Their military forces launched everything they had: nuclear missiles that barely scratched Zephyrian shields, kinetic projectiles that bounced harmlessly off energy barriers. Their leaders transmitted desperate pleas for mercy in dozens of languages. Some offered tribute, others threatened retaliation from allies who didn't exist. Within 72 hours, Earth's major population centers lay under hegemony control. The harvest ships descended, their cargo holds filling with human specimens selected for various purposes: the strong for manual labor, the intelligent for technical roles, the young for conditioning into perfect servants. Marcus Chen was among those selected for the technical division. The former MIT professor found himself shackled alongside thousands of others in the hold of a massive transport vessel, bound for processing centers scattered across the galaxy. The chains were more than physical. Neural suppressors dulled their thoughts, compliance drugs coursed through their systems, and behavioral modification implants monitored their every action. For months, Marcus worked in the fabrication plants of Kepler Station, assembling components for hegemony ships. His human colleagues whispered occasionally when the guards weren't watching, but most had succumbed to the mental conditioning. They worked with the hollow efficiency of the thoroughly broken. But humans, Marcus had learned long ago, were remarkably adaptable. The neural suppressors were designed for Zephyrian brain patterns. Human neural pathways, evolved through millions of years of creative problem-solving, found ways around the blocks. The compliance drugs metabolized differently in human liver systems than in their intended targets. The behavioral implants, calibrated for species with rigid social hierarchies, couldn't quite process the chaos of human individualism. Marcus began to remember who he was. It started small, teaching himself to think clearly during the brief moments when drug levels dipped between doses. He observed patterns in guard rotations, noted weaknesses in security protocols, memorized the station's layout. Most importantly, he began recognizing which humans were beginning to break free from their conditioning. Sarah Kim, a former South Korean engineer, had figured out how to subtly reprogram maintenance robots. David Okafor, once a Nigerian doctor, had discovered that certain combinations of industrial chemicals could neutralize the compliance drugs. Elena Volkov, a Russian physicist, had identified flaws in the power grid that supplied the neural suppressors. They worked in absolute secrecy, communicating through subtle gestures and coded phrases. When they finally acted, it wasn't with the fury of revenge, but with the cold precision of engineers solving a complex problem. The liberation of Kepler Station took exactly 17 minutes. Sarah's reprogrammed maintenance bots cut power to crucial systems while Elena's sabotage caused a cascade failure in the neural suppressor network. David's improvised antidotes cleared the minds of hundreds of humans simultaneously. Marcus coordinated the operation through carefully placed allies who overwhelmed the guards with tactics no hegemony manual had ever conceived, because no other species had ever bothered to resist. But liberation was only the beginning. The humans studied every piece of hegemony technology they could access. Where other species saw incomprehensible alien science, humans saw puzzles to solve. Their brains, freed from suppressors, attacked each problem with the same relentless creativity that had once split atoms and mapped genomes. They cracked hegemony encryption by treating it as a linguistic challenge rather than a mathematical one. They reverse-engineered faster-than-light drives by approaching quantum mechanics from angles that had never occurred to the original designers. They turned hegemony production facilities into weapons factories by exploiting manufacturing, vulnerabilities that 3 centuries of enslaved species had never discovered. The revolution spread with viral intensity. Every liberated human became a teacher, sharing knowledge of how to break the chains, both physical and mental. Every freed facility became a base of operations. Every captured hegemony ship was dissected, analyzed, and improved upon. Admiral Kethavar first realized something had gone catastrophically wrong when entire sectors began going dark. His species had controlled the galaxy for so long that they had forgotten how to fight a real war. Their tactics assumed that overwhelming technological superiority would maintain order. They had never faced an enemy that could steal their technology and improve upon it within weeks. The humans didn't fight like any species the hegemony had encountered. They didn't form neat battle lines or follow predictable strategic doctrines. They swarmed through space like a virus, converting everything they touched. Captured hegemony. Vessels would disappear into asteroid fields, only to emerge days later as unrecognizable hybrid ships bristling with weapons that violated every known principle of galactic warfare. Marcus Chen, now Admiral Marcus Chen of the Human Liberation Fleet, stood on the bridge of his flagship, a vessel built from the bones of 17 different hegemony ship classes. Through the viewports, he watched Zephyrian Prime burn as his human-led coalition bombarded the planet that had orchestrated the enslavement of the galaxy. Admiral, reported his communications officer, a former hegemony slave from the Arcturan system, were receiving surrender transmissions from the remaining Zephyrian fleets. Marcus nodded, but his expression remained grim. The hegemony was broken. Their 3-century reign of terror finally ended. But the galaxy was left with the ruins of 47 enslaved civilizations, billions of beings who had forgotten what freedom meant. The humans had broken their chains, then shattered the chains of the galaxy itself. Now came the harder task, teaching the galaxy how to be free. As he watched liberation ships spread across the star systems, carrying human advisors to help other species rebuild their societies, Marcus smiled. The Zephyrians had made one crucial miscalculation. They had assumed that because they could chain human bodies, they could break the human spirit. They had learned far too late that some things could never be conquered. The galaxy would remember this lesson for millennia to come.